Hello and welcome to episode 51 of the Dash Force Free Amigos. I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my two fellow amigos, Joel Valenzuela and Brian Freeman.
Hello.
How you doing, gents? And this other gentleman, our very special guest, man of the hour, Jeffrey Tucker. How are you, sir? Very nice to meet you.
It's nice to see you. Thanks for having me here.
Excellent. So this is the first time I've actually ever met Jeffrey. But Jeffrey, you seem to be everywhere. Every event, you seem to be speaking. You're all over the internet. Everyone I know in the cryptoverse from all YouTube channels, you're all over the place. Do you ever stop?
Isn't that funny? I don't have a sense of that. So I guess that's good, right? But I feel like I'm a little bit of a hermit and nobody's ever heard of me and that sort of thing. Although, one of the things I've learned to do is, like, yesterday I went to lunch in Atlanta, right? And so the very first thing is that there's a guy at the bar. He says, "Oh my God, Jeffrey Tucker." So he was visiting from Montreal, and I said, "Oh yeah, it was nice to see you." He says, "Well, I love Bitcoin." So I invited him by the Bitcoin embassy that afternoon. So we hung out, and then the guy who parked my car saw my Bitcoin pin. And he's like, "Oh man, I love crypto. What do you buy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this." And we have a quick crypto conversation, So it's fun. I love crypto because it helps people get to know people,
So I guess this would be a good point to ask you, how was Libertopia? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. And thank you, Dash, for being such a wonderful sponsor. There's a lot of people were brought around to the Dash thing. I got a chance to I went to all the Dash sessions, of course, right? Because, like we all are in the crypto world, we learn about things a little at a time. So, and I first heard about Dash maybe like even 3 years ago, and I've always been a fan, but I didn't understand the governance model, and I didn't really get to know it intimately. So that was a chance for me to really get to know Dash, and I'm really excited about the community now, and excited for the future. I mean, it's one thing to be an owner, as I am for a long time, but it's another thing to actually get to know the people behind the scenes. So that was exciting.
It must have been Darkcoin back then.
It was, and I didn't ask that question of the panelists, but yes. Well, no, just so we're clear. Okay, so maybe it's 2 years ago because I remember Darkcoin, and I know that it changed to Dash, and I think right after it changed was when my friend Amanda Johnson came to me with a shirt and said, "Look at our new coin," and I figured out it's the same coin as Darkcoin. Yeah.
But do you still have that T-shirt? That's what
the community wants to know. I do. Yeah, sure, I do. It was, and we laughed about it yesterday because she gave me a size small because that's all they had, but it didn't fit me then, but it fits me now. So
clearly, whatever you've been doing has been working.
Yeah, right.
It's interesting because that was the first person I knew associated with Dash as well, because back in 2013, when I moved to New Hampshire, she was my roommate for a while. And so that's kind of like how we all got together and then kind of went our separate ways and then reconnected as part of Dash. And then there we go. And it's funny because I've known Pete for about 11 years now. I used to know him when I worked in DC. And it all kind of reconnects there. And I believe I first met you in 2005.
Wow.
It's been a long time ago. It was a Mises Institute thing. I believe you were playing songs about marginal utility on the piano, unless I'm confusing that.
No, that's right. That's all true.
Yeah.
that was before.
So,
wait, that was pre crypto PC, right? I mean, that was.
Yes, that was like 4 years before the Bitcoin white paper. So it's funny how all these people, I kind of believe in general that everything, if you follow the true path, if you follow whatever path sincerely, you'll kind of all end up to the most efficient conclusion eventually. And so,
yeah. And the other thing
faithful, right?
There's a lesson here. There's a lesson here too for what it means to get to know people personally. It's like they become your network, and they become part of your professional capital, essentially. And then you link up later, and it's, you have this history and this connection, and it allows you to kind of trust each other more than you might otherwise would. And that's why I believe in these kind of personal connections, and crypto is a means of facilitating these personal connections. So yeah, we're all working together now, and that's just fantastic.
Yeah, I remember Jeffrey from way back in the like the Ron Paul days. He was before he was a crypto celebrity, he was a Ron Paul internet type celebrity.
Well, I was naturally drawn to crypto because, well, not naturally. It took me a couple of years of incredulity. Like, I didn't actually believe it was going to amount to anything. But once I became convinced, I was like, okay, this is the next step in the digital revolution. I mean, I wrote a book in 2011 called The Jetsons World. It was all about technology and that sort of thing. I picked it up the other day and looked in the index. There's not a word about Bitcoin. Can you imagine? 2011 it was published. Yeah. Not a word about Bitcoin. So it shows.
I mean, there's still a lot of extra technological marvels that are changing the world, but it's just the next one better have something in there, right?
Yeah, for sure. Well, then I finally wrote a whole book about crypto, right? So
a bit by bit book, right?
Yeah, bit by bit. Yeah, and that was I guess a couple of years ago. So so much has changed in 2 years. It's unbelievable.
I think I read something from you about crypto and regression theorem. Was that you? Was that you? Okay. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah.
Well, that was an important topic because for a lot of us coming out of a kind of a Misesian economics framework, we were like, it's a problem when you have a dogma stuck in your head because it can blind you to certain realities. And the dogma stuck in my head was that you can't have a new money just emerge from seemingly out of nowhere. That was impossible historically and otherwise. I realized in retrospect that I was completely wrong about this. And it's not that Mises was wrong either. It's that he was correct, but I was misrendering his theory. But it's what blinded me to Bitcoin. So I would have been in 2010 if I had not been so well educated.
Yeah, I remember fighting with the Bitcoin people. I was a gold silver bug. I remember fighting with them and like, no, you're crazy internet money. And then finally, about 2012-ish, I finally woke up.
Oh, really? So that I wasn't alone in this. Yeah. They struck me as just crazy. Like, I remember thinking that these people are extremely naive. Like, I thought they were just not very sophisticated on economics. That they thought that they could just put together the right combination of code and invent a money. My thought was, like, even if it was the perfect money, it didn't have a prehistory in something that was a commodity. Therefore, it could never become money. And what I didn't understand was that it actually, Bitcoin has built within it its own prehistory. So, it was released in January, 8 months go by, and what happens? Actually, 10 months went by. Yeah. And before it obtained a price. And so what happened in those 10 months was, of course, that was the prehistory of its monetary value. That was its, in effect, barter stage, right? During which time it was a time to find out if the service technology of blockchain communication could actually work. And once the concept was proven, then the money obtained an actual price in the real world on October 5th of 2009. So in other words, it perfectly conforms to Mises's model. And actually, to prove that myself, to myself, I went back and followed the audit trail of exchanges between January and October. Just like, I had a theoretical problem I had to solve in my mind. So fortunately, since we have this immutable record, I was able to go back and see how it happened. And then it just locked in place. I was like, okay, I get it. It does have a pre-monetary use value. That's all I was looking for. There's a pre-monetary use value, therefore it can become money.
Yeah, I was hung up on the tangibility issue for a while.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And then somebody's talking about email and how useful it is and it's not tangible. I'm getting a lot of echo for some reason.
You're getting a lot of feedback?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Would you want me to put on headphones?
Yeah, if that would be possible, that would be.
Yeah, I can. If you can wait, just like talk amongst yourself, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk amongst yourselves, children.
Right. So dashforcenews.com, the #1 source for Dash News online. We're on iTunes as well for the podcast. We're all over the place.
It's good to be #1 in something.
Yeah. And we're funded by the blockchain. So like, you know, we're the first news service to be funded by a DAO.
Speaking of Libertopia thing, and we had an article out today about the whole recap of Libertopia. Dash was really rolling deep at that event. There was dozens of Dash affiliated people, and it was definitely the talk of town. The crypto, it almost felt like sort of like when you have a crypto convention, you don't mention Bitcoin. Back in the early days, that was like you have to, because it was almost the reverse with Dash. You have to. Dash is the elephant in the room. The keynote speaker is like, I'm only here because of what Dash has done, and the entire alternative media panel, every single person on that was saying, yeah, Dash, 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 Dash. And then all these Dash presentations, and who was giving out, oh, you get 20 bucks in Dash if you go down to the booth, and they set you up, and then just Dash on the lanyards. And it was pretty undeniable. And it's interesting because you get a lot of crypto nerds in the crypto community running around just saying, oh, this is the new technology. It's all about VeChain, and then Verge is going to do this. And then have you heard Ryblox? And then it's all this stuff going on over and over and over again, and very distracted, like squirrel. And you get the libertarian communities that tend to be focused on the vision of cryptocurrencies. It's like, it's the next step. It's like, Bitcoin is amazing because we can this. And it's always looking to that next step. And so they tend to be a little bit less fickle than the other parts of the crypto community. And that's one thing I've noticed since 2016 or 17, especially. There's been this sort of like halt of enthusiasm in some ways about Bitcoin, because people used to be like, oh, look here, show me your phone. I can send you, yeah, you got this thing. Yeah, you can just send it anywhere. And then there was a bad experience with Bitcoin.
And in 2017, you're talking about?
Yes, or for me, it was late 2016, because I was living entirely off of Bitcoin at the time. And having to wait like an hour for a single confirmation meant walking around the shopping mall for an hour, waiting to get that gift card so I could do something with it. And it hit me a little bit quicker than other people, but it still hit everyone. And then everyone's still kind of waiting in the wings for that ultimate vision about what is this new, how are we still going to end the Fed? What's our next thing? How are we going to get that done now that this isn't as feasible as it used to be? And that's why you've seen a lot of people branch out into different projects than specifically Bitcoin, but not many. Not like with the cryptoverse where everyone's jumping on every little new project and hype train or anything. It's just like, well, there's a few different options. Let's look into these.
When I first, because I guess I went through like 6 months of not spending anything. By the way, is my sound better now? You liked it better?
Excellent.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. I went through a long time where I was involved in other things or whatever. And then in 2017, it might have been maybe the first quarter, maybe it was summer, something like that. I actually started getting back in, and I started sending it to people. I was in shock. I was like, what happened? Who took my Bitcoin from me? You know, who took the old Bitcoin? You know, the old Bitcoin functionality. And it was stunning to me. Like everything I had said for the last 4 years, you know, seemed like now untrue. And that was a shock to me. So, and I had followed the block size debate a little bit, but it was almost like abstract to me. Like I didn't really understand it entirely, or I didn't see what was happening with the scaling problem. And it was stunning to me. And then I just probably like you, I mean, you just kind of panic. You're like, well, wait, I can't send this. And also credit cards are way cheaper and more reliable, which is just the worst thing.
That wouldn't have to happen.
Yeah, that was the worst thing I could have ever realized. It's like, this will never work, actually, because like if credit cards are actually better, we're never going to get this thing adopted anywhere. And so that was a stunning thing. And then of course the great fork of August 1 happened, and you know, but now, you know, it's interesting. I look back at it, and in 2014 I wrote an article, and I was like, Bitcoin's a miracle. And the problem with miracles is that once they happen, you kind of get really conservative about them. like, wait, it exists, you know? And even though Bitcoin represented a huge innovation and monetary technology, it's just natural for the first movers to kind of like lock down and get uninterested and or at least too cautious. And I remember writing that in 2014, that my one big concern about Bitcoin's future was that there's a kind of a bias towards the status quo. I didn't entirely know what that meant, but I feel like in retrospect, that was kind of a prescient comment.
Yeah, of course. And that's one thing I've noticed is there's a lot of people who now almost give an almost religious reverence to the original chain and just say that there is only this. And just the language used is very, not just reverential, but very like, this is a very, same thing. This is a miracle. This is a gift. And any other innovation out there cannot be a miracle, cannot be a gift, cannot be magical, must only be a dirty human invention. And without seeing that the miracle was innovation, the miracle is innovation itself, and to continue to innovate is the greatest miracle of all.
It's kind of amazing that it would happen in the Bitcoin space, though, because you'd think that the great lesson of Bitcoin was that new things were possible, that history is not finished, you know, that there can be progress in unexpected ways, that nothing that exists is as great as it could be. You'd think that that would be the great takeaway. And then it's just weird that Bitcoin actually bred this new community that had a new orthodoxy, you know, a new attachment to the thing, you know, just like people are like, there's only the dollar, there's only central bank, there's only gold. It's like, okay, we learned that that wasn't true. And now there's all the community out there that's like, there's only Bitcoin. Bitcoin's the one money to rule the world,
yeah,
you know.
Which is very entertaining to me in particular, because everyone's saying no one's going to use these fancy Bitcoins. Everyone's just going to use credit cards and other things. No one's going to use that stuff. And now you have Bitcoin, or some Bitcoin people say no one's going to use those new coins when no one's using Bitcoin yet either. Like, as a percentage, this isn't even a new orthodoxy. This is still an unorthodoxy that will not accept new ideas into it. Right. And that's such a bizarre thing, is how do you act like the ruling class when you haven't even won anything?
Yeah, it's like a new establishment of the anti-establishment. I mean, it's just it's layers within layers.
Russian dolls, you just go more and more layers.
Yeah. So anyway, to me, that's the great lesson that you take away from the crypto experience, is that, you know, you think you know, but you don't really know.
On that point, can I ask you a serious economics question?
Sure.
Are we at that stage yet? Jeffrey, you sure you're ready for this?
Okay.
So for those that have read the title and those that are listening, because we're on iTunes, Podbean, and all over the place as well, so not just people watching on YouTube. If you did not know, Jeffrey is the editorial director of the American Institute for Economic Research. So prepare yourselves. It's serious economics question time. Right, here we go. John McAfee has said he will eat his dick on national television if Bitcoin doesn't hit $1 million by 2020. Jeffrey, do you think this price prediction is realistic? Also, do you think the dick risk to $1 million reward ratio is worth it?
Well, on the second point, subjective value, I cannot make a judgment for him. Okay. On the first point, I don't think anybody knows for sure, so I don't think that's entirely crazy, actually. You know, it's interesting because I've talked to people who have traded conventional financials for years and watch crypto price action, and they tell me that their models predict about 20% of the price moves, and the rest of the 80% seem to be unpredictable according to news. And the reason for that is obvious, right? Because crypto is, the price is determined by people's anticipation of what it's going to be in the future. It's not really about present valuations. although let me just be clear when I say that, I don't believe there's any such thing as a present valuation that's different from the speculative valuation. These are all the same thing, which is a point that I wanted to make a talk when I was in Libertopia, but I had already spoken for an hour and a half and I didn't quite get to it. So just to back up slightly, a price is just simply, it looks a simple lesson. A price is a point of agreement. It's a point of agreement between buyer and seller, okay? If you say any more than that, you're probably gonna be wrong. So there's, you can't figure out like what is the right price of anything. The stock of Apple, you know, even the price of a beer. You know, you can't look at the underlying assets of the beer and say, oh, you know, this. Therefore, the price should be X. Or you can't look at the assets of the Apple company or even its existing markets or, you know, how many consumers they're serving or how many countries they're in or anything else. Those are all kind of proxies or like the ways we pretend as if we're figuring out what constitutes the price. What's the under, like we want to look at the price. We look at the way we look at, we cut down a tree and we look at all the layers. We want to look at a price the same way. This part is speculation. This part is underlying asset value. This part is just potential, is existing consumer base. That part is potential consumer base and blah, blah, blah. It's all baloney. Prices are nothing but a minute by minute agreement to sell something and buy something. And the terms that bring that agreement together to enact a physical trade of money for goods or money for money or whatever it's going to be. That's really all it is. And I think this is really important to understand because like people forget this all the time. Like if you go to the store or if I go to the bar and they're like, they're saying martinis are $20, you're like, okay, that's too much. I'm not gonna buy it. Okay, that's proof. It's too much for you, but it may not be too much for the other people around the bar. Like for example, I went over to Fresh Market the other day, and they were selling fresh sea bass, and I said, "How much is it?" And they said $16. And I said, "For a pound?" They said, "No, just for this piece." It's like, you're out of your freaking mind. What are you doing to me? A $16 piece of fish? That's insane. From the grocery store, they're like, "Yeah, that's the way it is." So I'm like, all right, give it to me. So I bought it. Okay, apparently it was the right price. I took it home, ate it, best piece of fish I'd ever had. So I went back the next day, I was like, I don't care if that thing was $16. I'd buy it again. Guess what? They were out. So meaning that it was
that was the price.
Yeah, that was the price, or it was maybe slightly too low, you know? So that's that. Anyway, the little lessons like that you learn, and crypto has taught us about price theory. And people are looking at it going, there is no way, you know, X coin could have a $4 billion market cap because it's actually not being used anywhere. And the white paper just looks kind of lame. And this is all this is a speculative price. It's not a real price. Nonsense. All prices are speculative prices. I mean, like when I bought that piece of fish for $16, I was speculating that I would like it. I was right. You know, I was right. When you go to a movie and you throw down $7 to watch a movie, you're speculating you're gonna like that movie. Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. If you don't like the movie, you wasted your money. However, that's not always true because sometimes I go away from a terrible movie and rail against it for 2 days. That gave me massive utility just to be able to rail against a movie for 2 days. It's probably worth doing just for that reason, you know. So prices are really just an extension of our minds. It's like what we want at that moment when we want it. And so people look at the crypto markets and conventional financial people, they go, this is all insane. You can't have a $500 billion market cap and a bunch of digital bullshit. Yes, you can. You can. And guess what? All prices in the whole world are exactly that same way. You can pretend, oh, this is useful, this has physicality to it, oh, this has a consumer base, and all that's fascinating. But actually, prices are just simply, it's an offer and it's an acceptance. That's it. And crypto, the experience of crypto has taught us that it's a challenge. That's a challenge to come to that conclusion. Like it requires that you reach a new level of thinking and consciousness, but it's just true.
Groupthink mentality. Just like saying, like if cinema tickets were, or theatre tickets, if you're in the States, I guess. I think you call it theatre, right?
Theatre, yes. We call it theatre.
Theatre. Okay, cinema to me, across the pond for my folks. So if tickets to the cinema were $30, like I'm sure some people in America will go, like, oh, that's astronomical, that's a crazy price. But if you came over here and it was your first time here, and then you see everyone else buying those tickets thing, you just, that groupthink mentality, everyone will be like, oh, that's just the going rate here, that's just what people pay. And you just become susceptible to that because you become a product of your environment, right? So
people have money and people are willing to spend it if they think it's worth it. I mean, I remember driving in from an airport one day and just like buzzing through my phone while I was sitting in the Uber, and I saw there's a Beyonce concert. Oh, I know what happened. The traffic was really crowded, and I was like, "What's going on here with the traffic?" He goes, Beyonce concert. It's like, Beyonce's in town. Oh wow! So I looked it up on the app, and I could have bought a ticket right then for $257, I guess it was. And I looked at that, I thought, what are they trying to do to me here? I'm not going to be paying that kind of money. This is an outrage. Well, next day I was like, what is wrong with me? It would have been, to see Beyonce was one click away. Why didn't I do it?
Yeah, of course. At least to experience and expand your horizons. Yeah. It's funny because there's a big rant against spending all their money on avocado toast instead of massive pieces of real estate. And one thing, avocado toast is very good. If you haven't tried it yet, I recommend it with some pepper and olive oil on top. But part of it is it's like trying to say that price is inaccurate, that's not a good price, and then somehow saying that the price of a massive sprawling piece of property that requires constant maintenance and constant givings to the government over and over and over for, that somehow that for your entire life's work, somehow that's more appropriate of a price. And then there's, of course, younger generation that are saying, no, well, that's not, I don't think that's worth my price. My price is going to the avocado toast.
Yeah, for sure. And I tell you something else that's really fascinating to me, how, and you've experienced this too, but I see young people now, and everybody, young people are so deadly interested in crypto because it's a first chance for them to actually like engage in a kind of a market speculation. These people are not going to the Merrill Lynch dealers and opening up an account and all this crap. I mean, they really want peer-to-peer technology, and so crypto provides an opportunity for them. But as soon as they get in, their value system changes. Like, they sell their cars and start Ubering around. They move out of their 4-bedroom apartment and move into a studio. They sell their furniture on eBay and sit on metal chairs. I mean, they stop going down to Nordstrom's and Bloomingdale's to buy their clothes, and they realize they can get $2, $3 shirts over at the thrift store. And they do all this because they want to see their money put into crypto. I mean, just a warning for viewers, most of the people I know who are seriously into crypto live a more poor, they seem to be more poor than anybody else. And they're certainly poorer in an actual life than they used to be like a year or two ago. But it's all because their value system has changed. It's like, well, if I spend $3,000 a month on this apartment, I mean, that's maybe $30,000 I won't have this time 10 months from now, maybe. That's a really interesting thing. So you actually develop a kind of, it's funny because it kind of takes away your consumerism. You look around your house and you think, everything I have here could have been in Dash.
Yeah, I've definitely thought the same thing as well. And unfortunately, a lot of that also makes me think of a lot of people, you're sort of supposed to not be so much of a maximalist or whatever, and just like diversify into a few different coins. And like I've tried to, and then I've always thought, but then I have to switch some Dash over to something I don't like as much. And that's like, nah.
Jeffrey had just described Mark's lifestyle the last probably year.
I live a very frugal lifestyle: frozen pizzas, chocolate milk, crypto 24/7.
I know, yeah, and I'm driving a 15-year-old car, and every time I think about upgrading, I'm like, no, I think I'll put the difference in crypto. I mean, it's just like, what's the point? So it's changed my value system. If you worry about consumerism and greed and the materialism of the young generation, you should be encouraging everybody to get into crypto, because I don't know of anything that's more magically purges that mentality. It's funny because this is really different from 2013. I was there when crypto first started making people rich, right? And I remember going to, I think it was a North American Bitcoin conference, and it was like the most decadent thing. Like, people were buying and selling Ferraris on the street, renting yachts and open bars, and it was just like material decadence and to the extreme. And everybody was like, because it felt like free money. It's like, we used to be poor, now for no reason we have a lot of money, let's spend it. But that was just like, that just lasted a short period of time, because then it was like, wait, what am I doing? I'm throwing away my biggest asset. So now you have a different culture that's affected the crypto community. It's like all about frugality and simplicity and the signs of status, that the old analog dollar-based world, exalts. We kind of reject that, So it's our lives have changed, and actually we're happier because of it. Actually, I mean, I think a crypto lifestyle is a happier life. Avocado toast is, by the way, very healthy for you, and it's really delicious.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, as this is the Dash podcast, can I ask you a Dash related question?
Yep.
Okay. I'm not stalking you, but I shared this video on my Twitter back in January. So when I knew you was coming on, I knew I had to ask you this question. So here it goes. In an interview you did with Omar from Crypto News in January 2018, you stated that you were expecting to see tremendous growth in 2018 in altcoin assets like Dash and other service-based tokens. Has your position changed since then, or are you still bullish?
No, I'm still super bullish. I mean, I'm super bullish on Dash, and in fact, the more I learn about it, the more excited I am. I'm very interested in the governance structure, because you know how it is in our space. Like, you have to learn slowly, because otherwise it's like the fire hose in your mouth, right? So one of the things I've not really looked into or understood that well is governance structures of government. Like how can the protocol change and what determines that, right? It becomes extremely important. I think Amanda put it this way at the seminar in San Diego. She says, okay, this is the most boring topic there is, but it might be the most important. So a lot of the seminar with Dash was about the structure of governance. And what I'm most interested in is that Dash is experimenting with new ways of arriving at consensus for managing not just the protocol itself, but the disbursements, and I'm really intrigued by that, because we need that kind of experimentation. I mean, at the same conference, I already feel like I'm boring, but at that same conference, there was a talk by David Friedman, okay? David Friedman's key contribution to this, I guess you could call it the science of liberty, was to depart from the old school attitude that the law that should govern society is fixed and an extension of natural law. Like, it was just one law. Like, that was more or less Rand's position, Rothbard's position. But then you should be free in every other sense. But the law can be known like apodictically and a priori. Friedman said, actually, we don't even know that, and we need a market for law also. That's what the machinery of freedom did, and that was a very challenging position, and it's come to ultimately dominate, I would say, the scholarship and liberty-oriented circles now. But what Dash has done is implemented David Friedman's vision. Let's experiment around with the rules and the structure around managing our community and compete on that basis. And I'm not saying that Dash has all the final answers, but I'm really intrigued at the experimentation that's going on. And I think of some of Bitcoin protocol. I mean, I don't know what happened in 2016, 2017, but something didn't work right, and people admit that in private, at least not in public, but in private, they certainly do. I mean, I heard many people admit this when I was at Satoshi Roundtable this year.
That's of course That's, of course, the first step into having something move beyond that, is not just sort of view that it's just like when you think of Bitcoin as an act of God, as it were, and not an act of a deliberate act of people and humankind creating something.
Yeah.
Same thing when you view the fork as an act of God. It just happened. Then you're left with nothing. You can't do anything. You're helpless. And so seeing that something went wrong at some point, and are we sure that we're past that wrong thing, or have we tried a different thing that was not?
Yeah, it always reminds me of my favorite movie is Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
And when he's riding the bike and he starts doing all kind of tricks, and then he falls off and he rolls on the ground, and then he stands up, and then his friends are staring at him, and he goes, "I meant to do that."
Pee-wee Herman, is that why you wear the bow ties? Good question, right? If I get you a custom-made Dash bow tie, will you wear it?
Oh, absolutely. Please get it to me immediately. I'll give you my address right away.
Are you coming to Porkfest?
Yes, I'll be there Friday night.
Dash is the premier sponsor of Porkfest as well. Ben Swan's the keynote speaker. You'll be in good company.
Yeah.
All arrange thanks to this guy. So
I'm gonna get you a bow tie, and you're gonna rock it at Porkfest.
I will.
Dash bow tie. I'm gonna get one too.
Yeah. I'll wear it in the swimming pool with the color. You know. Yeah.
Okay, it's getting a bit awkward now.
Yeah.
Right. Next question.
I heard Jeff Berwick and Danny talking about Libertopia and how the turnout wasn't as big as it was. What do y'all contribute that to, and what do y'all think about Porkfest? Is it the turnout supposed to be bigger this year than before? Or?
So as far as I'm able to answer on that, all I know is that Libertopia did not happen last year, and maybe not the one before. I can't remember, but it's as something of, hey, it's like, yeah, well, we're gonna do it again this year. Start it from the ashes. It's like there's always this sort of a momentum you have to get going, and so I know Porkfest's been happening year after year. I know the organizers who did it, and I'm already getting lots of hounding messages saying something about, hey, we need to talk about this blog post we're putting out. Hey, what about the video to promote this? Hey, what are you gonna do with all these tickets? Like, there's a lot of like working on this right now kind of thing. And so I don't know. I think Porkfest is gonna be pretty great.
What's the date for it? It's in June.
June 19th through 24, I believe. Let me just pull up that link real quick.
Yeah, what's the turnout normally? What was it last year?
It's always in the hundreds at least. It's been up to a few thousand before. The thing is, it's before it was like a week long, like a Sunday through Sunday kind of thing. And then during that time, you have like a few hundred people there at any one time at least. And then there's different people that come up for different days. But on the weekends, it can get pretty packed. But we'll see. It's been the last couple before then were sort of following the move being triggered, and then there was a lot of like sort of built a lot of released energy after that, and now it's like I don't know. It looks like it's going to be a different vibe than the last couple of years.
Hasn't that trigger point been met to where like everybody was supposed to move down after like 10,000?
Yep, and it's going to be supposedly within 5 years, and I think that's 1 or 2 years down. So we'll see. And that's the thing is, just already with the 2,000 to 5,000 that are here right now, that's what we see about just from the crazy crypto scene here. We see just how effective that's been. So Jeffrey, have you been to the town of Portsmouth recently?
No.
Oh, you need to pencil that into your trip. Because, I mean, even fake news CNN did a segment on me sending Dash everywhere, for crying out loud. So if even they've caught up to it, it's kind of big.
That is so amazing.
At the present time, there's over 1 Dash accepting business people in the town. So that's a pretty big.
What is the statistics you cut up there for a second? It's what?
Yeah, sorry, over 1 Dash accepting business per 1,000 people.
Oh. I don't, the history of this has not been written, but I think that the crypto community has saved what used to be called the Liberty Movement. Like, because I mean, you look back like 15 years. I mean, things were kind of going pretty well in the early 2000s. The online communities were growing. We had websites. I was building some of them, and we were developing readership, and things were really starting to move in the right direction. Then we had this presidential campaign in 2008 and then 2012, and people got really, like, that recruited a lot of new people, but people began to believe that the goal was not so much like bottom-up revolution or technological change or cultural shift or whatever, but really to get our guy in office. And that became a little bit of a distortion of the perspective, in which I was terrified about the time, because I knew what was coming. Like, when that didn't happen, there's always after politics. People always are left with these terrible hangovers and depression. Like, wow, I wasted a lot of time. What did I do that for? I'm an idiot. So in 2013 and 14, there was a real sense of like loss and scattered and demoralization. And like right at that time, crypto kind of picks up everybody and goes, hey, here's something you can actually do. I mean, here's something real, it's disruptive, it's going to deal with the actual problem, of the state, and it's going to empower you in your own life, and you're going to meet a lot of cool people, and this is the way we change the world. And so that's why what used to be called the Liberty Movement is now becoming like at least 1/3, if not 1/2, entirely a crypto movement. And then the other half seems to be dominated by, lifestyle issues, concerning diet or child raising or childbirthing or spirituality and all these other things. I mean, but I credit crypto to taking the remnants of the Ron Paul movement and turning them into a productive and meaningful movement that can actually make a difference in the future.
That's a great observation. That's exactly my story. I never thought about that, but yeah, that's exactly what I went through. And I also see a lot of people who were like the gold and silver bugs, and they were kind of in their doomsday bunker. And some of us kind of branched off into crypto and saw like the future and the potential and the wondrous things that could be created with this. And we kind of got out of that doomsday bunker mentality. But yeah, that was exactly my progression, just as you described.
Yeah, I think that pertains to a vast number of people, because there was a lot of people who had a lot of talent in the Ron Paul movement, but the best use of their talents was not just attending rallies and going rah 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 rah, like that. That's not a very good use of your talent, actually. Like, your actual use of your talent is to figure out practical ways to make the world a better place. And crypto was that. I remember I held my conference on cryptocurrency in October 10th of 2013. It's just like 1 or 2 days after Ross was arrested, and it was kind of an exciting time. It was a tragic arrest. On the other hand, the Liberty movement was demoralized, and they came to my conference because they're like, what is this crypto thing? In fact, that's why I held the conference, because I wanted to know, what is this stuff, So I held a conference on it. But the funny thing about that event is that it was about 250 people came. The number one thing that people said after the conference was not, thanks for holding this, because I needed to learn about Bitcoin, or I needed to learn about distributed networks. I didn't know anything about cryptography, and now I feel like I know something about it. I met some cool people. That wasn't it. What they said was, I haven't felt this hopeful in years. This has changed my whole outlook on life. I now see that you can be happy. You don't have to be constantly seething with anger and despair. You can be actually hopeful and do productive, beautiful things. I had so many people at that conference tell me that's the difference it made in their lives. So it's just to like open up a new pathway for personal and social progress. That was the effect of that event. And I think that's the overall effect that crypto has had on so many people. I mean, I run the Atlanta Bitcoin Embassy, and like all day long, I get people in here and in here and in here. And everybody who comes in is exuberantly happy and optimistic about the future. And I just think that's just like, that's irreplaceable. That's so beautiful.
I'd like to circle back.
Yeah, more importantly, it's more productive, right? To think about that, because there's a lot of people that are just unhappy about things. They just say the current state of affairs is terrible, and wouldn't it be wonderful if it were different? But there's only so far you can do that without you need a direction, you need a thrust, you need to go towards something. And so with crypto, people are starting to see what a peer-to-peer economy. There were so many economic theorist type people talking about, oh, but without government, this would happen. Or without government, we'd have a competing monies. Without government, like without all this stuff that just sounds like a throwaway thing that like, well, how would we take care of the poor without this? Well, stuff would crop up. And like, really? It's just true though it might be, it's just sort of a throwaway answer. And now we have an answer to a lot of it.
It's also super cool because you look at like the left progressives, and what do they say you should do with your life? Well, you should recycle and separate your plastics from your steel or cans, or you should bike, not drive. It's like, okay, that's kind of lame, but okay. Now we can say, actually, you can use this cool new magic internet money. That's way more interesting, actually.
Yeah, of course,
man.
Yeah, well, they'll complain about that. They'll say, "Oh, y'all wasting so much electricity and everything else." But the future has solar panels and clean energy, so I'm not too worried about that.
Right.
Yeah. I'd like to circle back because Jeffrey mentioned earlier about targeting the youth. So I was just thinking, Facebook famously first started out as a social networking platform based on university students. It was exclusively only for universities when it first launched.
Yeah.
So my question to you, Jeffrey, is to achieve true mass adoption and utility, do you feel enough is being done in the blockchain space to target millennials?
Well, I don't, here's my actual answer to that. There is a role for promotion. I do believe there is a role for promotion. On the other hand, crypto is kind of learning to sell itself. Like people are finding out about it because it's inclusive. And I don't know how else to put this. Let me just kind of explain this to you. So I live in Atlanta, right? A very diverse community, racially, religiously, and age groups, and every possible way you can think of this. And there's always somebody who has a plan for reaching out, or for managing people, or for turning us into a community? Or is there somebody always with like a top-down kind of solution? When I look at Atlanta, I'm like, what brings Atlantans together? It's music, and crypto, and probably some third thing, and I don't know what it is. But crypto has become this weird way that people have learned to encounter each other. And I don't know how everybody's finding out about it, but you go to an ATM around town, and you're going to see like a trap house owner, an investment banker, a stripper, a vice president of Wells Fargo, a real estate guy, a sketchy marijuana part-time dealer, an Uber driver. I mean, it's like, and we're all there together, and we're like, hey, you like crypto? Yeah, crypto, yeah, all high-fiving each other. It's just glorious. So I think all that we need is just little signs and symbols of things, like a Dash sign, an opportunity to buy Dash at an ATM. Or this is why I wear my pen when I go out, and people go, I know that. That's cool. Oh, let me tell you something else that I think we can do as individuals. And I just want to tell you really quickly about a lunch I had yesterday. So this attorney here in town, she invites me to lunch. Okay, all right, we're going to go to lunch. Sitting at lunch with her, she hangs around the crypto space. She goes to the meetups, right? She's always at the embassy cocktail party. All of her friends are like involved with the crypto space. But the way she was talking about it, and this sense, all of you know this sense, when you're talking to somebody who's got a lot of words and they're talking the talk and they're doing the thing, but there's something about what they're saying that it seems like they don't have skin in the game. So I finally said to her, I said, let me ask you a question. Do you own any crypto? She goes, well, I don't actually own any crypto. I mean, if by owning you mean do I like own it? No, I don't actually own it. And so I said, wait, you've been hanging out in the crypto spaces for months. Why not? She goes, God, I don't even have a wallet. I don't even know how to get a wallet. Nobody ever explains anything to me. So I said, you know what, girl? You reach into your phone right now and reach out in your purse right now and pull out your phone. So I had her download a wallet. I just sent her some crypto right there at the table. And she was like, what? She goes, that's all it is? I said, yeah, that's all it is. She was mind blown, happy, enthusiastic, like left that lunch like full of joy. Like you can't just presume that people know things. You know, like even your friends, they're really, like if you hang around in crypto circles, you can talk the talk. You watch the news, like, oh yeah, distributed networks, oh, cryptography doing the thing, you know, and people can talk the talk, but sometimes that basic core knowledge of how to get in is just missing, and people get shy about asking. So that's what I think that's going to be a real key to adoption, is to like ask people point blank, do you own Dash? You know, do you own Bitcoin? You know, are you interested? Are you on an exchange? You know, do you have a soft wallet? Just ask them, get the answer, and if the answer is no, explain to them how to do it. You know, or even better, just say, stop what you're doing right now, download this thing, boom, boom, boom. What does it take? It takes you like 4 minutes. You know,
it sounds like you're describing the Dash booth at all these events. Just at Libertopia, we set up 55 people with new Dash wallets and gave them their $20 in Dash, and 14 of them then used some of that to buy a Dash t-shirt. So there's the 55 there. Liberty Forum was even better. We had 80 people who got their first $20 in Dash in their first Dash wallet. Voice and Exit is about, a week from now or so. Same thing there. Then PorkFest, then just, and you know the best part is we have discoverdash.com, and now it has a live chat where anyone can just go on the site and just start asking questions and talk to a person. Just say, I don't, what's a wallet? What can I do? How help? And then we have doing this on the other end as works.
It's so essential. I think that's what we need to do. I mean, basically, I think the most important step we could do is give people skin in the game. That is the most important thing. I mean, I was the one who called up Amanda Johnson back in 2013. And I said, hey, you got to get interested in this stuff. She's like, what is it? I'm like, download this thing. Now hold your phone up to the screen. I shot her QR code and sent her Bitcoin like that. She was like, oh. And it changed her life. Like you can change lives by spending 3 or 4 minutes with people. And you do that and you really just open up hope. You get a new direction in life, you know, and you change the world. I mean, that is the coolest, #1 coolest thing we can do. Totally.
It's become easier nowadays too. Back in the day, people thought you were kind of crazy, but now everybody's heard of crypto. Everybody kind of wants to get in, or a lot of people have, and they're more open to it.
I don't know. I think Jeffrey's just pitched like a new advert for Dash there, TV advert. I can just imagine being at an event and like Jeffrey's just working his way around the room, just talking to all the females. And I'm there talking to my mate saying, who's this Jeffrey cat? He's going around giving his digits to all these girls. What's going on? But really, he's setting them up with all the Dash wallets. There's an advert in that somewhere. Got digits, got Dash.
There was a t-shirt that kind of became popular in 2014. And it was, no, I will not set up your Bitcoin wallet. which is funny, ha ha ha. But actually that's wrong. I mean, that's what we should be doing. That's like the #1 most important thing I think all of us can do. And never presume just because somebody's like, oh yeah, I know all about that. That doesn't mean anything. Just because they say that, like you got to ask point blank. Do you have Dash?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have Dash. If by have Dash you mean like have it.
Get your phone out. Let's get Jeffrey around. Give me those goddamn digits.
Yeah, I've actually had that happen. There have been a couple. So there have been a couple masternode owners, people who have 1,000 Dash and help run an integral part of the network. 1,000 Dash is a couple who I've run into who just, I said, hey, so you have a Dash wallet? And they're like, well, I mean, I have a masternode, but I don't like have a Dash wallet. I'm like, are you kidding me? Well, I'll get you started right now. So sometimes the people who vote for the proposals, who pay for my salary, I sometimes help them out as well. But it's, and part of it is just because it's so like theoretical, like people do on the computer. They like, oh, I'm going to buy off of Bittrex or Kraken, and I'm going to do this and convert some of my old Bitcoins into this. And now I got this much, and I'm going to host a note and set up my rewards. And, oh, this is cool. I'm going to experiment with the governance system. And oh, great. They're like, great, I'm part of the future. And then they're walking around with an empty phone. And it's because I don't even blame them, though, because you can't really spend crypto most places. Not everyone's blessed like I am, where I go out to eat on a Monday night. There's 3 places that accept Dash that are all closed on Mondays, and there's a 4th place I could still go to. Has that kind of life. But there's something about that, like, get it in your phone and send it back and forth.
You've got to. I mean, I noticed this about Jason Stapleton, my friend Jason Stapleton in Los Angeles, because he's got a really wonderful podcast, and he's so smart and so good on monetary economics. I love his daily podcast. He's just extraordinary. But I noticed that he was kind of always like putting down crypto. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't get into it. I think it's too speculative. Look, I come out of the financial industry. I think this stuff might be going to zero. Strongly work. But every time we talk about it, I always had a sense that it wasn't quite, he didn't seem like a stakeholder, So I flew out there to get on the podcast, and I talked to him during the podcast, and I realized, oh, this guy doesn't have it. So afterwards I said, Jason, do you have a wallet? He said, no. So I gave him a wallet. I had him download the bitcoin.com wallet and send him Bitcoin Cash. And so he's like, hey, wow, thanks. So he's really excited. So he tweets this out, and immediately, of course, he gets like slammed from the maxers, like, you got defrauded. And I was like, okay, Jason, enable the Bitcoin wallet also. I sent you Bitcoin Cash, I sent you Bitcoin too. So he did set it to, so whatever. Welcome to our world, all right? It's like, sorry, it's not a big happy community, but
Which, by the way, I'll reference a tweet from the 6th of May that has an article called Financial for Love Uncertainty by a certain Jeffrey A. Tucker. It says, hey, Dash, this is for you. First tweet. Did you turn into a shitcoiner, Jeffrey?
That's right.
Yep.
That's
exactly. It's part of the world we live in.
That's so funny. And once you recognize it, it's like, it's okay. But at least initially, it's really, really shocking. And by the way, everybody told me that after that Jason Stapleton speaks about crypto in a different way. I mean, like he probably owns 20 or 30 bucks of cryptos, probably now 80. But it's just something about like owning the change in mentality. I know this from my own personal experience. I was studying Bitcoin from like October 2010 until February 2013. Like, oh, what is this? Interesting thing. Click, click, read, click, click, read. I'm not so sure about this. Blah, 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 blah. And finally, Eric Voorhees and Gabe Sukunik and Charlie Shrem and these guys, just like corralled me in a corner, like, listen, dude, you suck. You need to get some Bitcoin. So they forced me to download the wallet. They made me an owner, and that was the day that everything changed for me. So that's what I think. That's the most important thing we could do. Dash is doing the right thing at these conferences, just setting up the booth and getting people, asking people, getting wallets in the hands, getting crypto in their hands, and the more people who become owners in the space. I mean, think about what that does for us politically. It's great. Socially, you're spreading hope, you're spreading dreams, and you're building on, a kind of a growing army of people that are like, you'll pry my crypto out of my cold dead hands. I mean, that kind of attitude.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. I think your analogy is spot on, because it even relates pretty similarly to precious metals. Everyone that's been in precious metals remembers that first time they get like a silver coin or a gold coin and they actually hold it. And then there's that tangible feeling. And I always find that, everyone that's watching this, I encourage you to do the same as well. Like, if I'm getting a taxi somewhere, even if I have to pay in dinosaur paper money, or if it's an Uber, I always try to say, hey, can I tip you? Can you just download a wallet and I'll pay you some Dash?
Cool.
If it's free money, it's such a simple idea, but if you just give them like, $10, $20 or whatever, they will then take the initiative to then look into it, research it.
That's right.
It works every time. And the few times I've done that, you'd be surprised how many taxi drivers then find who I am on Twitter and they say, hey, how can I get more? It works. And it's the same tangible asset. It's getting people to physically use it.
It's so great. And it should be much easier for us than it is for the progressive left to get people to recycle. I mean, that sucks. I mean, you get nothing out of that. That's stupid. But like, whatever. I don't know. But all we're saying is
this conference.
here's a way to own something
sorry.
and be awesome. I mean, that we've got a great proposition for people.
Yeah, it's going to get easier too with the Dash Evolution release. It'll be even easier to share it, and usernames instead of crazy strings of 10, 20 numbers. And
so. Well, the user interfaces have to get easier. We know that. And we've been so distracted by regulatory compliance and just, I don't know, it just takes time, you know. I mean, the user interfaces in crypto in 10 years are going to be completely different from now. You know, I think Amanda likes to talk about the crypto your mother can use, you know, that kind of thing. And that's a decent standard. I mean, but we'll get there. We just have to be a little bit patient. So I have to make a quick movie, so I'm set. I need to head out. Can I give my contact information for anybody? Is it okay?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Give a shout out. Links, website, Twitter address.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so it's Twitter is Jeffrey A. Tucker. Yeah, and then I'm the editorial director of the American Institute for Economic Research, which has been around 85 years and was founded in opposition to the gold confiscation by FDR on April 5th of 1933. So that's like, I mean, it's really cool. I'm like really honored to be working there. And the website is aier.org. And that article I wrote on Dash, based on a wonderful experience with on the Dash panel and Libertopia is at AIER. So, but thank you for having me, and I hope you have me back sometime.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing you at PorkFest with your Dash custom bow tie that I'm going to gift to you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I very much appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks, Jeffrey.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
That was good. Very informative. I like Jeffrey a lot. Very informative.
Yeah, very charming fellow. And also props to him for showing up at the 9 a.m. I believe it was a Sunday morning panel. Ooh. Just showing up and just being there all bow tied up and ready. And I mean, of course, Chuck and Amanda and I or being there as well, but I mean we kind of had to, but just sitting through the whole thing and then just writing a thing about it, it's pretty good. But that's always interesting because obviously what he says, right, no one cares about it until you have some, until you have a stake in it, until it's real for you. And then also getting as many different people from different worlds involved as possible because they all get it from a different angle, especially economists.
Yeah. And I appreciate him answering my John McAfee serious economics question. I know that was pretty heavy stuff, but someone had to ask it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it's all good stuff. I hope he comes back. And yeah, I like him. Upbeat, happy guy, happy chappy. What's not to love? But yeah, it seems like Libertopia was a success. And as we've been talking about PorkFest and stuff, as that's coming up next month, I'm looking forward to going to visiting New Hampshire and just seeing the local merchants accepting Dash. Also seeing AnyPay
have to show up early. Yeah, I bought my lunch in AnyPay today in Manchester, and I'm talking about more cool ways of revolutionizing the Dash point of sale experience beyond what AnyPay has already done. So a lot of good stuff coming up.
What's the next big thing in New Hampshire after PorkFest? I'm not going to be able to make PorkFest, but what's the next big thing after that?
Free Coast Fest. That's going to be early September, and that's going to be in Port with all the nice things in there, and it includes a cruise, like a big harbor cruise and stuff. So it's going to be it's kind of pinky up. Oh, I got a comment. Free Coast Fest.
Yeah, I may have to try to make that one.
Yes, you probably should. It's you know, you don't have to schlep your way all the way up to the White Mountains. You get to, you know, just be in a nice urban town, and you know, it depends on. Yeah, it's much more convenient, much nicer. You don't have to, you know, get rained out and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's gonna be Dash pub crawl. Anyone?
That would be awesome. Well, hey, I know we mentioned it last week, and if you've not been to the dashforcenews.com website today, Joel did a summary article of the call that took place last Friday, just doing a roundup. So if you don't have an hour and a half, I think the video is, to watch the whole Q1 2018 Dash Core Summary Call. Go check out that article because you'll just get all the highlights and important takeaways that Joel took the time to write down and publish today. So definitely go check that out.
And if you don't have 3 minutes to read my summary there, then you don't deserve your Dash and you should give it to me.
There you go. You've been told now. Okay, so cash up. As Jeffrey would say, give me those goddamn digits. Well, something like that.
Yeah.
Something to those effect.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like this. Doesn't sound like this characteristic, but still.
No, yeah. Cool. So is it that time to
wrap up?
Wrap up? Okay. Joel,
I
I think it's becoming customary for you to do the outro now. So take it away, my friend.
Alpha meet Omega. Thanks for joining us for another very wonderful special episode of the Three Amigos podcast. And as always, remember, subscribe to this channel on YouTube because you get the notification especially if you do it this day. Say the magic words, and you get it every single week. And yeah, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, all kinds of different things. All that's in all kinds of audio only formats that's down below. And don't forget that we always have the after party. So if you're not in the Dash channel, you probably feel alone and isolated and crying on your own. You don't feel like you're part of anything. Well, guess what? You can be a part of something. Dashchat.org. Jump in there, participate. After this, we always just do a random hangout talk, until the late hours of the night. And it's not all of us stick around that long. It's very, very sporadic. But go there and just start dashchat.org. Start asking around, hey, where's the after party? After party. Can I get in the after party? And if you're cool enough, or rather we have 10 slots available, if they're not full, you'll get in. And if you don't get in, it doesn't necessarily mean you're not cool enough, so don't get all upset.
I hear Joel chinking his silver there. Is that what I hear?
Does that sound money?
Yes.
I hear silver. I've got an ear for the silver.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You heard the sound of money, so it must be sound of money.
Sound of money.
Well, if you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and also comment as well. Why not? While you're at it. So we'll be here every Friday, 7 p.m. UTC, 3 p.m. EST. And yeah, we'll be back next Friday. Same Dash time, same Dash channel. And thanks for watching. And I hope to see some of you in the after party. Until then, have a great weekend. Bye.
Peace.